All right, let's dive into a topic that can sound a little scary, the ovarian cyst. You hear that phrase, and your mind can just go places, right? Well, we're here to pull back the curtain and demystify the whole thing.
Oh, yeah. If you've been there, trust me, you are in very, very good company. Hearing you have a cyst can feel like a really big, scary deal. But the truth is, the reality is usually way less dramatic than what we cook up in our heads. So let's just start by taking all the power away from this word. In the medical world, a cyst is just a fluid-filled bubble. That's it. You can get them all over your body. And when it comes to your ovaries, they're not just common, a lot of the time they're supposed to be there.
Okay, so here's our game plan. We're going to start by getting comfortable with the idea of cysts. Then we'll look at the ones that are actually part of the plan, the good guys. We'll touch on the hormones that run the show, talk about the cysts that do need a closer look, and finally walk through what happens at the doctor's office.
First things first, let's completely reframe how we think about this. A cyst is not automatically a bad thing. In fact, when we're talking about your reproductive health, it's often a sign that your body is working perfectly. And here it is, the big reveal. This is probably the most important thing to know. If you're not on hormonal birth control and you're getting a period, it's pretty much a guarantee that you have a cyst on your ovary for most of the month. It's not a bug in the system, it's a feature.
So, if cysts are normal, what makes them normal? Well, it all comes down to whether they have a job to do. So let's meet the two hardest working cysts in your body. The key word here is functional. A functional cyst is doing something. It's active. Think of it like a tiny temporary hormone factory that's absolutely vital for your monthly cycle. It's not just sitting there, it's a major player.
Your entire monthly cycle is basically a story about cysts. Seriously, it starts with what's called a follicle, which, yep, is a cyst that has an egg inside it. That follicle grows, and then it ruptures to release the egg. But the story's not over. That same little structure then totally transforms and becomes a different kind of cyst, the corpus luteum, with a brand new job.
And what's so cool is how different these two are. So on the left, you've got the follicular cyst. Its whole job is to grow that egg and pump out estrogen. On an ultrasound, it's just a simple, solid black circle. But after ovulation, boom, it becomes the corpus luteum on the right. Its new job is making progesterone, and its look totally changes. It's more complex, kind of gray and hazy on the screen.
So how does your body know how to do all this? When to grow the cysts? When to switch their jobs? Well, it's all thanks to this amazing long-distance conversation happening between your brain and your ovaries. Just imagine there's this barrier, right? Your brain can't physically look down and see what's happening in your ovaries. So instead, they talk to each other by sending hormone signals through your bloodstream. It's like sending texts back and forth. The brain sends a message, and the ovary sends one right back.
And this is that conversation in action. It's like a hormonal handshake. Early in your cycle, your brain sends out a hormone called FSH to tell a follicle to start growing. As that follicle grows, it sends estrogen back to the brain. Once the brain gets enough of that estrogen signal, it's like, okay, we're ready, and sends a big surge of another hormone, LH. That's the green light for ovulation. Then the corpus luteum takes over and starts sending out progesterone. It's this perfect, beautiful feedback loop. Okay, we've spent a lot of time on the normal, functional, hardworking cysts. But what about the ones that aren't part of this monthly plan? This is where your doctor comes in, and where it's important to figure out what's what.
You know, sometimes a functional cyst is just like a party guest who doesn't know when to leave. It hangs around a little longer than it should, but it usually goes away on its own. Other times, though, a cyst can have a totally different origin story, and those are the ones we need to pay attention to.
All right, now before we get into the more common ones, I have to tell you about one of the weirdest, wildest things the human body can make. It's a fantastic reminder that when you hear the word cyst, you should never ever jump to conclusions. So, let me introduce you to the dermoid cyst. These things are wild. They're usually benign, they grow really slowly, and they can have stuff like hair, skin, and even teeth inside of them. I know, it sounds like something out of a science fiction movie, but it's totally real. And while it's super weird, it's not inflammatory, it only really becomes a problem if it gets big enough to cause pain or twist the ovary.
Now let's compare that weird but mostly harmless dermoid cyst to something like an endometrioma. As you can see, they come from totally different places. An endometrioma happens when endometriosis tissue gets inside a cyst, and that makes it super inflammatory. That inflammation can actually hurt your egg supply. So because their origin and their impact are so different, the way a doctor approaches them is different too. And of course, we have to talk about the biggest fear, cancer. It is really important to know that it is very, very rare for a cyst to be cancerous. But that tiny possibility is exactly why monitoring is so important. Following up with your doctor just ensures that if anything changes, it gets caught right away. So, your doctor finds a cyst, and it doesn't look like one of the normal, functional ones. What's next? Do you panic? No, absolutely not. There's a very standard, calm, and methodical way to figure out exactly what you're dealing with. Your doctor has a clear set of tools. They might order some blood work to check for specific markers. They will almost definitely want you to come back for another ultrasound in a few weeks or months. They're essentially being detectives, gathering clues over time to see if the cyst changes, shrinks, or grows. All that info helps build a complete picture so you can decide what to do next, if anything. This quote from Dr. Crawford just says it all, doesn't it? Hearing you have a cyst isn't the end of the story. It's the beginning of a conversation. Your job isn't to freak out. It's to get curious. It's to ask, okay, what kind of cyst is it? That's the question that matters most. So, we'll leave you with this thought. You now have the knowledge to be a better advocate for your own health. You understand the difference between a totally normal part of your cycle and something that might need a closer look. So the next time you're in that situation, what's the one question you're going to ask?